Good evening and welcome to the Arcata House Partnership 30-year anniversary. I'm Gene Joyce, current board treasurer. Tonight we're celebrating 30 years of history, service, our beginning, growth, success, and where we are headed. To find out more how to support Arcata House Partnership, please visit www.arcatahouse.org. And now I would like to introduce Arcata House founder, Eric Duff, Episcopal priest. Eric, you're the founder of Arcata House, so can you tell us about what the catalyst was that led to the inception and creation of Arcata House?
So I moved here in about 1988, and homelessness was just becoming an issue for the whole country, not just Arcata. But Arcata was waking up to the fact that they needed to do something to address the problem as well.
Yes.
So they created, the city council created a task force, which met for probably about a year. And after that time, decided that the best plan for Arcata was to try to address homeless problems with families first. So with that mandate, the Arcata City Council then contracted with a group called Humboldt Handicapped Access, not to be confused with this organization, to run two trailers that were located on an open lot that was situated right behind where now the annex and the bus station are located. That was still owned by the city of Arcata at the time. So they started that program. Humboldt Access did not have a mandate to do homeless housing per se, so the program wasn't well run, it was thought. And about that time, around 1990, I was approached by Alice Harris, who was the city manager at that time.
Yes.
And she knew of work that I'd done back east in Newark, New Jersey, starting a program for homeless families.
So you have done a program like this before.
It continues to exist. It's called the Apostles House.
All right.
In Newark, New Jersey. It's now celebrating over 30 years of their being a homeless program. So anyway, with that invitation, I was able to pull together a board of trustees. We began to incorporate as a 501c3. We began looking for grant funding. Stephen Lashbrook was the person who was assigned the city staff, who was extremely helpful during that period. So we were able to pull all that together in roughly a year, purchase a home, create a board of trustees, have a 501c3 established, and then open a program. So we opened our first house with a model that, again, I'd helped develop back east earlier of trying to address the full family situation. So we were still looking at trying to help homeless families, but trying to work with them. In terms of whatever it took for them to get into housing. That was the deal for anybody coming into the program.
So who were some of those early key founding members of Arcata House that I know there's a lot of people over the years, but who were some of those key people that come to mind?
So again, I had this invitation to bring together volunteers to create the program and then to transition into a board. The people that I recall, because it's over 30 years now, are people who generally were involved with the city. So they didn't necessarily serve on the board, but they advised. Victor Schaub was the mayor at that time. He was very helpful and instrumental in the early years of the program. Lynn Canning was a member of the council, Connie Stewart, Bob Ornelas. Those are the key people that I remember from the city who were behind us. Again, I mentioned Alice Harris and Stephen Lashbrook. And then a number of faith communities. So we had the Roman Catholic Church involved, the Methodist, the Presbyterian, and the Episcopal, which I was part of, St. Albans Church in Arcata. So we had a group of volunteers and others and it changed rapidly over time.
And very, very much people from the city that I know are dedicated to making a difference, and that whole concept of it takes a village, it takes a community, and involving the faith partnership groups and churches in there sound like it was a big part of it.
So one of the things we did, though, was we planned on having a staffed program from the beginning. So we did hire a director who then ran that program, and then we transitioned to other directors over time. But the idea was to not just rely on volunteers, but to really do this in a way that helped make that transition possible for people.
So it sounds like quite a vision. How has that vision developed over the past 30 years as looking at it from?
Yeah, so I can just share my perspective. I stayed on as board president for roughly 6 years, I believe, and we purchased 2 additional homes during that time in the Arcata community, with the idea of having homes throughout the area, not impacting just one neighborhood, but small homes in different places. And so that continued on until I was present when we purchased the 11th Street Annex, the office. Now, that's now housing for homeless people, homeless families. So, and then from that point, I began working very hard with other faith community people on creating something called the All Faith Partnership, which was addressing the needs of homeless men and women, not just families. So for the first time, Arcata began to do, volunteers within the Arcata community began to look at that problem. And we were an all-volunteer organization for many years. We ran under the radar, but we rented a home and then were able to purchase one that now the Arcata House owns, that was then out of the radar. We were now able to be public and leverage funds and so on. So that became a big effort, and Susie Van Kirk and Rudy Ramp and Becky Price Hall were very important, and her husband Stefan. In keeping that going, it was all volunteer with food and staffing and so on. And then we began an extreme weather shelter not long after that to try to help people meet needs of people during those weather crises.
Crises,
And so we were able to develop that. That continues. That also involves various faith communities in the area.
From those early days of that single home with the $100,000 block grant, Arcata House Partnership today now owns 6 properties and services hundreds of people every year, collaborating with the partners throughout the entire county. Kermit Thobehaven, an early director and volunteer, talks about the early grants and funding of the Arcata House.
I'm Kermit Thobehaven. I'm a social worker by education, and I was involved with Arcata House back in 95, 96. And I got involved because Eric Duff, I believe, was the one that asked me to help. They didn't have any money, basically. And they had 2 houses. They had just opened the second one. But they had no grant funds. And the prior executive director, had left. So basically I volunteered for a year and a half, maintaining client services and keeping the houses going. The other thing I did was write a federal emergency shelter grant, which got them which was awarded, and got them into a funding stream, so they could then actually hire somebody, because they had some money for payroll. The houses had the heart to keep going. They found people to keep them going. So, no, the mission was a good mission, and the resources were very necessary for the community. I don't think anybody wanted them to fail. The city was always supportive. The board hung in. The board could have quit. And other agencies were supportive. So, yeah. It was not doomed to failure. It was doomed to succeed.
Former board member Pamela Millsap shares a wonderful, beautiful story about Kermit, Arcata House, and one of the families that Arcata House has serviced and helped.
Kermit Thobehaven will always be a hero in my heart, because I had a mom with a 2-year-old son and her husband, and they had come from Florida. They were pretty young, and right after she had the little boy, she had her first psych break, and they wound up on the street. It was a pretty significant psych break. Her husband never wavered. He loved her no matter what, but they couldn't find or maintain housing. So out of desperation, I asked Kermit if he would mind trying to put her and her son and her husband in Arcata House, and he did. We wound up having to put her on sempervirence because her mental illness was so significant. And she was there for about 2 weeks, and Kermit helped her husband get reconnected with his family back in Florida and get a place so that when she came out of sempervirence, she would have stability. She came out of sempervirence and went back in Arcata House. The important piece of that story is that she wound up moving back to Florida, but would call me once a month to thank me and to thank Kermit for saving her life and giving her a place to stay. It's been, 30 years, and her husband are still together. She's maintained on meds, and she has grandkids now. I think it's kind of a cool story.
Thank you to all the wonderful volunteers who have supported the All Faith Partnership and Arcata House throughout the years. There are so many of you, we can't thank you enough. Please enjoy this short video segment from the Arcata Playhouse production of A Woman's Place is in Her Home.
My name is Jacqueline Dandino, and I'm the Artistic Executive Director of Playhouse Arts and the Arcata Playhouse. In 2018, with the help from the California Arts Council, the California Council for the Humanities, and the Humboldt Area Foundation, we embarked on a research mission for A Woman's Place is in Her Home. We worked with Arcata House Partnership and Food for People to really reach out to the community to find out about the experience of women being homeless. We talked to politicians, we talked to social workers, educators, but most importantly, we talked to homeless women. We went to their homes, we met them on the street, we interviewed them in their vans, they came to the Playhouse, and we talked with them in various venues. And from there, we developed the show, A Woman's Place is in Her Home. With an ensemble of actors, we rehearsed ensemble bits and actually took transcripts of the women's conversations and our interviews and turned them into pieces for the women and songs. We feel strongly that the information that we gleaned and the experiences that we learned from homeless women help to bridge the gap between those of us who are housed and those of us who are houseless, that we are the same, that we are humans, that we have dreams, desires, problems, things to achieve and things to overcome. And that's really how we feel passionate about this show and are so glad that we are able to join with Arcata House Partners to bring this to you today. So, thank you.
I see you. I see how you look at me. I see how you look at me with my cheese smeared on my cheeks and the jam dripping from my chin, my wobbly chin. Oh, I wish I could slow down. I wish I could. I wish I could taste this fluffy cream cheese and those little orange carrot sticks. I wish I could have a conversation with you over lunch. But I don't have that luxury. Things my mom taught me, you gotta shove it in before somebody yanks it from you, before they pull your head back and you're choking on your own spit, and they yank it from you so many times, so many times. But not now. No way. Now I have the power, and the stage is mine, and I'm gonna take it, and you're gonna look at me in horror, and I'm gonna take it, and your feeble generosity. You don't know anything about me, and you don't want to know anything about me. Well, I don't want to know anything about you. Win. I couldn't help yelling, I'm hungry while I wandered through town, screaming and yelling and acting all kind of crazy, just to get people to notice me. But then I realized I was acting crazy, and I got kind of crazy. And that's not good. I see you. I see how you look at me. I see how you look at me. But at least you see me. And that's a start, I guess.
I woke up this morning, and that was a start. The start to a day, because it means I did sleep, even just for a minute. Sometimes, when I don't get any sleep, I wander through the evening, sometimes with my feet, and sometimes just in my mind, through twists and turns and things that could go wrong, and through creaks and noises and people passing by and drunken college students. Oh, they make me so nervous. I feel all jangly and jumpy and right on the edge. Oh. Sometimes I just feel like lying here. Sometimes I do. I mean, just lie here. What's the point of getting up? Who's gonna care? Who's gonna notice? No one cares that I've been up all night just trying to keep the few things I have mine, just to keep myself mine. Sometimes I am so bone tired, I can't even think straight.
Why are these people so lazy? Go on, get up. Get moving, you lazy thing.
I can't even feel my aching feet, or the gouge down the front of my thigh from the time I was trying to make my way through the blackberry bushes. Or the rips in my blanket which smells vaguely of smoke from the time that lady gave it to me. But you probably think it just smells like piss from the time that my insides were burning and I had to go piss so bad all the time.
I let them sleep here. Why do they have to piss in my doorway? Go on, get out.
I walk, and I walk, and I walk. But it's like I see myself from outside, from up above, from inside out. It's like I'm a bird that swoops down from the top of that building and swishes over my head, but it's not really my head, and my head flips open, and all these thoughts come shooting out of my head and my ears and my eyes and my mouth. And these fingers were once learning how to play the piano. When I was so little, my feet didn't even touch the floor. and it was missing my 2 front teeth. Oh, but now these fingers are so grimy from days and days of dirt, kind of swollen. I lost my 2 front teeth again, and it wasn't so cute then, huh?
All she wants is a place to catch her breath.
I fell through the cracks in everything.
Mom, what's wrong with that lady?
Can this be me?
It's illegal for you to sit on the curb. 500 vagrancy laws in California. More than any other state in the nation.
I can't be the only one out here. I just can't be.
I am so sick of all these forms. People want to lump me in a category of mental illness. Don't lump people together as mentally ill like it's some kind of disease you can catch. Most of us have suffered trauma. I have been mentally injured. Mentally injured. I am not mentally ill. No, I don't focus. No, I don't sleep. No, I've never had a family. Yes, I'm paranoid. Yes, I've been raped. Multiple times. All these frickin' boxes I have to check here and there to come up with a score to show how bad off I am. I feel so angry all of the time. For you, it's just a story you say is sad, and then you turn the page. But for us, it's part of every chapter of our lives. I want to sing out an SOS for me, a canary in the coal mine of life, who never got to sing one song, drifting in the sea of inhumanity, writing with the only ink left to me, years of saltwater tears. Have you ever had a migraine? Or a cracked tooth? Or a heart attack? Did you really give a damn about anything or anyone else in those moments of severe and untreated pain? Or would anybody have expected you to? Well, that's what it's like to be homeless and have PTSD. Only you're expected to run a marathon every single day and many nights no matter. And I don't need any more drugs. Drugs screw with my mind. I've been given drugs since I was in foster care at 14. What I could use is a house of my own, a place where I could just be, where maybe even I could heal a little. Because truth is, your community isn't safe as long as it's filled with so many broken souls who can't find a place to heal. Damn it! I want to remember my life. This isn't the life I want to have. But if I have to have it, at least I want to be able to remember it.
As a foster care child, I was taken from a mother who neglected me. I moved 20 times before the age of 16. I was put in juvenile hall because there weren't enough foster care homes. I was kept in a basement. I had no idea I could ask for anything. I remember going to this kid's house after school, and there was a bowl of fruit on the counter. Her sister walked up and took an apple. I had never seen a bowl of fruit before. I was shocked to realize that somebody could just walk up, take an apple, bite it, and keep going. I never had the vocabulary for I need, let alone I want. Hard to find help when help is foreign. I hadn't begun to even have a vision for it. It would be decades before I knew that. When I finally realized that help was life-savingly vital, I couldn't find it. Being homeless is what freaks me out. I panic a lot. I overthink this stuff. I never realized that my past would take such a toll. I have terror in every nerve ending of my body. I just need a quiet place to putter and to heal and to paint. Still lives, bowls of fruit.
Do you remember that scene in Peter Pan where the Lost Boys talk about food and pretend they're eating it? I remember that. There was something so pathetic about that thing. I mean, that these kids would think that they could fill up their stomachs with wishes and dreams. That's such. You can't fill up your stomach with anything but the real thing. One time, I was at the food bank with my mom, and we were walking around picking out all of our stuff, and I saw this box of mac and cheese on the shelf. The one with like the SpongeBob characters. And I grabbed it off the shelf and carried it around with me, and the corners got all bent up. And then when we got up to the counter, my mom said to me, "You have to put that back. You know we have no way of cooking that." And I remember that feeling. That red flush rising up, my ears all hot and stingy. I was so mad. I was mad because everyone else could have it and I couldn't. I was mad at my mom because she couldn't get us out of our van and into a life of mown lawns and bedrooms. I was mad at all those people just sitting there listening to her say that shit to me. I guess I started getting mad when I was a kid and I just never stopped. And you know, the stupid thing is, I still dream of mac and cheese. Like it's food. Like it's fucking steak and lobster or something. And not just a bunch of crap thrown together to fill a hole. But, you know, I can't even have the bottom of the barrel. I learned that quick when I was a kid, and nothing much has changed.
Oh, I remember having to go so bad, crawling out of my tent at 3 in the morning, every bone in my body aching with some sort of pinch and scream.
Oh yeah, just the thought of having a container and trying not to spill while living in a van.
Oh, I used a laundry detergent container once that leaked. I ain't going back to that.
To hell with it. I'll just pee wherever I am.
Sometimes in the streets.
Sometimes on lawns.
Sometimes in a doorway.
Hey, is it against the law to pee in public?
It's a bigger crime that there's no safe place for us to go pee.
Or get clean. I've been wearing these same clothes. I even sleep in them.
I don't know when the last time was I had a real shower.
Whew, what I wouldn't give for a long hot shower.
I am so tired of friggin' sponge baths.
I tell myself that George Washington didn't bathe very often.
Well, I make handy wipes with rags and essential oils.
Wow, do you have one with you?
No, but I do keep my trash to a minimum.
Well, if people think I stink, how do they think I feel?
Well, everyone should have access to food, shelter, and a place to pee.
And poop!
Welcome back. 2001 through 2010 was an amazing time of transition. Our services continued to grow. We were expanding our partnerships within the community. Please welcome Susan Rizell, Humboldt All Faith Partnership Board President at the time, and David Horowitz, Arcata House Board President. So David, the Continuum of Care, how did that come into be, and how does that involve Arcata House and the program?
So when I joined Arcata House Board 20 years ago, Arcata House was a small, mostly volunteer group that did transitional housing for families. We had very little paid staff. We had a couple of houses that we used to provide transitional housing for homeless families. They would save money while they lived for free in our houses. We had some very limited social workers who helped them find permanent places to live. And we had just hired a new executive director, Fox Olson, and she realized that Humboldt County was missing out on millions of dollars of potential HUD federal grant money because we didn't have something called a local continuum of care. So a continuum of care is a federally mandated organization where all the stakeholders in a community have to come together, everybody who is involved in homeless services and the local government, and kind of decide what the community's priorities are for helping to solve homelessness. And Fox took it on herself to organize our local community, invited all the different players, the county government. We held a 3-day workshop, and out of that was formed this required body, which meets to this day.
Yes, it does.
And made us eligible to apply for lots more federal grants that previously we hadn't been able to.
Thus giving Arcata House and all the programs the ability to do more because of that funding. So we've got the Humboldt All Faith Partnership with Susan.
Yes.
We have Arcata House with David. During this time period, there was sort of a marriage or a joining of those two organizations. And I might like to point out that it was a marriage in a very special way because you two being president of both organizations are married to each other for quite a number of years. So congratulations on that. And thank you for the marriage of the organizations. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Humboldt All Faith Partnership was running a small night-by-night shelter. Our ideal was anytime you got a human being off the street, under a roof, gave them a meal, that you were doing a true blessing, because this was also in part because of the religious organizations, both the synagogue and all the churches in town that came together to bring meals every night to people. We rented a little house, and we got a lot of support from all of the faith communities. And we actually did get some grant money, and we became quite successful in a very small way. We had a very small budget, and we realized at some point, because we had no paid staff, that we needed to, if we were going to expand our services, we needed to expand our administration. And so we went to Arcata House, we went to Fox Olson. At the time, our executive director, who was a volunteer, Michael Twombly, went to Fox and said, this is bigger than we as a bunch of volunteers. We were a board, but we were really the people who ran the shelter. This was just a night-by-night shelter. Would you be willing to take us on? And she said, sure, but I have to convince my board of that. And because we had a relationship, we were able to have a very positive merger.
So there was a effort made for providing meals and feeding our folks that were in the shelters and the facilities. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, when I first joined the Humboldt All Faith Partnership Board, they said, oh, the newest person always organizes the meals. I didn't know what that meant, and they said, every night somebody's got to bring a meal. Just call all the churches and ask them to bring something, and here's a list. And so I got on the phone and spoke to so many wonderful people, and every single religious organization that I called was willing to sign up for at least once a week or once a month. Some of them, and so the synagogue in Eureka, of which I'm a member, and St. Mary's, the Catholic Church, and the Methodists, and the Presbyterians, and just numbers of wonderful churches said they would bring meals for 20 folks every single night. And I also, some individuals, just friends, I just went around with my book asking, would you like to try cooking a meal? Sometimes people with a bunch of kids brought meals. And at the time, it was also easy for them to get an opportunity to speak with and interact with the folks in the shelter and realize that these are human beings who are just having a hard time. So it was a pleasure work to talk to so many different people in so many different slices.
Anything you would like to add from the Arcata House side of that?
Yeah, so I think the Arcata House board, as I said, when I first joined the board, we were mostly doing transitional housing for homeless families, but we recognized that there was a much bigger problem in our community. There were a lot of chronically homeless, single folks with substance abuse problems, mental illness, that we had not been able to serve. And we were interested in trying to do that. And with Continuum of Care funding available, we were able to expand our services into something called permanent supportive housing. There's a model of how to help homeless folks called Housing First that says you can't expect people to be able to deal with mental health problems, substance abuse problems, if they're homeless and on the street. So the first thing is to get them into housing. So permanent supportive housing is an idea that an agency, Arcata House in this case, can master lease apartments so that we're the ones who are responsible to the landlords, since landlords are not very interested in renting to homeless, mentally ill, substance abusing people. And we were able to get federal grants to master lease apartments and then take people who had been chronically homeless and house them with intensive social work support. And that was kind of a logical next step for the folks who were in the shelter.
I just want to say that the concept of continuum of care means from first contact with people through street outreach, bringing them in, getting them stable, getting them housed, and then getting them social work help, and then getting them substance abuse help, mental health care, and everything else they need, all the way through.
All the way through.
And that's what continuum of care means.
That's the way to solve the problem, just
right.
Taking care of it all the way through.
Right.
Well, again, thank you for being there, for all your service.
Okay. Well, thank you for showing an interest.
And now we'd like to take a moment and visit with Becky Price Hall with a wonderful story of the Arcata Extreme Weather Shelter.
So we were meeting and trying to get a night shelter organized, and we had discarded the idea of people staying at individuals' homes, and this big storm came that was going to be freezing rain, and we weren't ready to have a night shelter, but we just decided we were going to do it. And so I think we had maybe 2 days to get ready, and decided we'd have people come to St. Albans Church and sleep on the floor, and people were going to go to the Presbyterian Church and sleep on the floor, but I couldn't get a hold of the rector, so I couldn't really formally ask for permission to do that. So we just decided it was more important to get people out of the rain, so we just went ahead and did it. Which it turned out fine, and after that, but that was our start.
And now let's hear from Pastor Tim Doty from the Arcata Presbyterian Church talking about the expansion and growth of Arcata House Partnership.
The real challenge of integrating the shelter was the smaller one, and didn't have a full-time staff, and was struggling, really needed to maintain some sense of integrity to its mission. And we knew at that time we were getting bigger. We needed more, better management. We needed administration. We needed more staff people. We need to have more specialized staff people. You do this, you do that, kind of a thing. And that move forward with Darlene coming made it possible for us to expand beyond whatever we ever thought we were going to be able to do. But there's still a part of that old, small group of dedicated volunteers that touched my heart as I talked about that beginning. There aren't too many places that are really started by passionate, visionary, dedicated volunteers, and that's the heart of it. The expansion, the quality, the networking that Darlene has helped lead us into has never been envisioned, and that was the payoff. You know, if you will, there are entrepreneurs that start a business, then it gets bigger than they can handle, and you need somebody who knows how to run a business. Otherwise it will fall. Arcata House Partnerships, if you want to help the homeless with housing north of Target, there's nobody else. They are the best, and they're stretched out a lot to other parts of Humboldt County into Eureka and Wichipec, but they are the best, and they keep getting better, so that's why I continue to support them.
And now, please sit back and enjoy another wonderful selection from the Arcata Playhouse production of A Woman's Place is in Her Home.
I was a stray. Nobody wanted me as a kid. And my two dogs, they were strays too. I found them on the streets, and I had to take them both. I had to. They openly love each other, and I love them. And now they love me. And besides, who would take care of them if I didn't? I learned that humans are okay by watching them. They put me back to square one, reviewing the basics. Everybody needs to connect with somebody or something. I know, it's not easy living in a van with two big dogs, but it beats the heck out of living on the streets. I got all my stuff here. I don't have to carry it on my back. I don't have to push a shopping cart. I do have to find a safe, flat place every single night to park my van, hopefully without blinding lights. And I wear earplugs to block out the noises. I pretty much know where the cops circulate and which neighborhoods to avoid. I just wish that there was some safe place to be where we could just park our vans and we could help each other. All that moving and searching and schlepping and avoiding.
My dog keeps me warm, and she lets me know if there's someone around trying to mess with me. The irony is that she protects me, yet she keeps me living in my van. Nobody's gonna rent to me with a dog. And what do I do with her when I have to go to work?
How come they have dogs when they can't even take care of themselves? Poor dogs.
Oh, that irks me so much. These housed people, why don't they help themselves? To what, I say, to what? I mean, too many housed people store piles of their stuff in self-storage units, and yet not one homeless person can safely store their self. With all the money spent moving us and moving us again, I just wish we could secure a plot of land where we could park our vans and pitch our tents and maybe even have some tiny homes. Just think of it. If that was the thing, then we could build the kitchens. And we could build the showers. And then cooking circles would happen and song circles in the evening. And children, they would run around in packs playing games, smashing berries into juice, playing pranks on all of us. Dare I hope?
I had a friend in the marsh. His name was Cowboy, and he was awesome. There was Fat Man and Evil, Pirate and Kentucky, and sometimes we forgot their real names. I always thought of Cowboy as my North Star. He was so nice to everyone, and he was older, and he would dread his hair up like a unicorn horn. He would always help me. Middle of the night, raining, he would always help me. Cowboy had no ill will. He would always see hearts and faces in the clouds.
I'm a 39-year-old sociology student transferring into the Master of Social Work at HSU. When I was 15, I became homeless. On the continuation high school, they taught me that my voice was important. So important that I helped start the first homeless shelter in the city of Santa Clarita Valley, where I won the Student Advocacy Award from the mayor. I never graduated. Instead, I started a successful animal husbandry business where I mentored and fostered children in the community. Eventually, I moved to Reading, and I started college at Shasta College. It took 4 years to get to Humboldt State University. A year before I went, I messaged every sociological professor and dean. I got tons of replies. But nobody ever told me that there was a housing crisis here in Humboldt. One day turned into 16 weeks and $16,000 of my financial aid and student loans. I'm still paying interest to this day for being homeless. People used to ask me, why did you come if you didn't have a home? I worked my whole life to be here. How could I just abandon all of that? I felt like I had failed my family. I mean, I can't tell you how many dangerous situations that my family and I went through. I felt like I had failed them. I did this to them for this American dream, and it turned into a nightmare. I can tell you one thing. I became the first off-campus housing liaison in the CSU system, where I can help students like me. And I'm grateful for that.
When I first moved here, I was homeless. My boyfriend and I thought that Humboldt would be a better place to raise our 4-year-old. So we packed everything and took a Greyhound to Humboldt County. When we first got here, we stayed at a grow house in Manila. The only livable place was the entryway. We slept on the floor and there were ticks everywhere. Finally, after months of searching our bodies for ticks, we found a place in Fortuna. The first time he hit me was after we found our place. I had gotten up early and shifted the bed and woke him up, and he hit me. Maybe he was having a bad dream. But things got worse. I realized I had no community and no friends to talk to. He would just leave all day and go play golf or go surfing. He had money from selling weed and wouldn't give me any. One day, when I was listening to music, he screamed at me, pulling the cord of my radio out of the wall and began whipping me with it. Scared the shit out of me. So I took my daughter and left. But I had no money and nowhere to go, so I went back. Then I found a $100 bill in the mail. It was my ticket out. I called a friend who I had just met, and she invited me to her house to escape. That began a long and twisted path to finding a home where my kid and I could be safe. We were stalked, threatened, berated, and assaulted again. I had to get a domestic restraining order. I made a few more mistakes for sure. Had to leave another relationship that did not support me or us. And I'm homeless again right now. But I know we'll find some place to land. Humboldt is a magical place, but I don't quite feel like I belong here. I stay because the schools here offer so many great options for my kid. I just want to be who I am and do what I'm good at. And that should be enough.
Picking up trash, that I became a police once, the house market crashed. I used to be someone, I am someone. I help the neighbors fill out papers for the kids to go to school. I want to use my second language as a positive tool. I used to be someone, I am someone. But how can I dodge when the dust won't settle? I guess I'll wait for the rain to turn into my cause. The mud's more familiar. I think it's even stuck to my name. But yeah, it's stuck to my name. When Mama got sick, things were never the same. I fought hard to stay the family in that old picture frame. I used to be someone, I am someone. Now I'm kind of feeling a little down on my luck, but ask a random stranger, I just don't give a f***. I used to be someone, I am someone, I am someone. I got a pocket full of seeds and folks telling me how to grow. No place to lay down my roots, you think they'd have the compassion to know. I guess I'll wait for the rain to turn into my cause. The month's not familiar. I think it's even stuck to my name. How can I dust when the dust won't settle? I guess I'll wait for the rain to turn into my cause. The month's not familiar. I think it's even stuck to my name. Well, yeah, my name. I am someone. I used to be someone. I am someone.
Welcome back. And now I'd like to introduce Darlene Spohr, our current Executive Director of Arcata House Partnership. Thank you, Darlene, for being here this evening. So, Darlene, how have things changed over the past 10 years, and where are things headed as you see them today?
Wow, what an amazing question. I am so honored to be here and talk about all of the work that our staff has done over the last few years. In 2020 alone, during the pandemic, our staff provided 14,104 shelter bed nights for people. 14,000 nights people did not have to sleep in the street. We provided over 62,000 meals and food bags last year. There's a lot of hungry people in our community.
Yes.
And we provided over 3,000 referrals to partner agencies for people that we work with. We, as some of you know, we provided an emergency tent shelter. We opened quickly in response to the pandemic and provided 3,500 bed nights. Sorry, I didn't mean to get carried away with that, but it all seems so amazing.
And that tent shelter, emergency tent shelter, I mean, it worked. It was successful. There were virtually no issues or problems really to speak of, considering the number of people we were servicing and helping there. So thank you.
Our pleasure. Our staff worked really hard to start a program from scratch that we had never done before, because we really want to respond to the needs of the community. Last year, we also provided over 23,000 hours of case management to people who were in need. We served over 2,000 people walking up to our service window, and we paid $318,000 in rents for people who needed that kind of support.
That's just amazing and wonderful that the program has grown and done so much with that.
Well, let me just take a minute to continue to brag about our amazing staff and talk about what's happened so far this year. So this year we've provided over 9,000 bed nights already in the first 6 months of this year, which is just amazing. We've provided 46,000 meals the first 6 months. That's so much more than last year. So we're seeing more and more people coming to us who are hungry and in need. And we've provided 16,000 hours of case management to really help people and, connect and do whatever they needed to.
Well, we are in these unprecedented times, and as the pandemic continues to carry on, obviously it is impacting the homeless and houseless situation in Arcata and Humboldt County and across the state and the nation as well, I understand.
Right. Absolutely. But even more importantly, it's not just the impact on people who are homeless. The impact on our community altogether is pretty dramatic. The more people who are out of a house or out of a place to live means there's more people who are in need, more people on the streets, more people who have no place to pee or poop. All of these things matter to everyone in our community.
And it's a great way of bringing it down to earth and to perspective to the common person out there of, all the businesses downtown, of every person that each person that you can get off one less time using the facilities in a doorway or an alley. Each person, that's one less issue for some business owner or homeowner that needs to clean up and take care of as well. So
absolutely.
It's a two-way street, so what helps them helps everyone.
Absolutely, and it really is, homelessness is, as you know, a healthcare issue.
Yes.
And it really is an environmental issue as well. So I see us as providing a community service, not just a service for people who are homeless.
Yes, and in community, and this has been kind of brought up a few times, it takes a community or a village and partnerships, and we've got agencies and businesses and organizations that assist in our partnering with us as well as part of that village and community. Can you tell us a little more about them?
I can. So we partner with a little over 220 partner agencies, everywhere from medical providers and halfway houses and detoxes and support services for people with hearing impairment or people who have specialized needs. We couldn't do what we do without our partners. They're critical to us, and we call on them all the time, and they call on us, and thankfully they feel like they can call on us, and we really appreciate that. So Jean, let's take a minute now to listen to a video from Becky Price Hall about our community partners.
Oh, do you guys know the story Stone Soup? So there were 3 soldiers that were traveling through a foreign land, and they came to this town and they were quite hungry. And they went up to one house and said, could we just have a little something to eat? Nope, we don't have anything. And they kept getting no. And so they said, okay, let's just make stone soup. So they got a pot and they set up kind of in the middle of the plaza, and they put the stone in the pot and they filled it with water. And people were kind of looking out their door to see what they were doing, and somebody came up and said, that looks kind of plain. Maybe would a carrot be good in that? So they brought a couple carrots, and then someone else, I think a cabbage would be really good in there. So they put a cabbage in. And so by the time everybody looked at the soup and had an idea, they had this amazing stew, and it was enough for everybody. And I feel like that is what we've done with providing services for the homeless. Everybody, it was too much for anybody to take on. And so just like getting all the churches on board, and this is just talking about this part that I was involved with, the Humboldt All-Faith Partnership, but we just all pulled together, and we did it with hardly any cash. Susie Van Kirk wrote some grants, but we really did it on a shoestring, and made it happen. And it's enormously satisfying to feel like, like we have, it's not, the issue isn't resolved and there are still people homeless, but I feel like there's a lot more infrastructure for how to deal with it.
So I understand there is quite a group of donors and funders who are supporting Arcata House Partnerships. Can you tell us a little more about who they are?
I can, Jean. I'm so excited. Last year, in the middle of the pandemic, the number of people who donated to Arcata House Partnership doubled. Thank you to all of our donors and funders. We could not do what we do without your support. It's been instrumental in the work that we do and allowing us to have unrestricted funds so that if somebody needs a bus pass or somebody needs a tent or a sleeping bag or any kind of special needs, somebody needs money to pick up a prescription, we have some unrestricted funds to do that. And so the money that we get from our funders and donors that are unrestricted is just invaluable.
Arcata and Humboldt County is just one of those incredible, generous, supportive areas, and that was one of the things that moved me when I first came here, is how open and supportive and gracious and compassionate they are. And it goes just beyond the donors and the funders, the landlords and our neighbors as well.
Absolutely. Our landlords and neighbors have been so wonderful to us. Sometimes we have people that come to us because they're having some difficulties in their life. People don't become homeless because life is great. And our landlords and our neighbors have just been so supportive to all of the people that we've had in our shelters. And not just our shelters, but in our permanent supportive housing programs and rapid rehousing programs where people are permanently housed. We rely on our neighbors and our landlords to help us help people build new community and to learn how to transition from being homeless to being housed, and we can't do that without their support.
And Emily Siegel is one of those landlords who continues to be so supportive of the Arcata House Partnership program.
I've been a renter, but I have never rented before. This is an unusual situation for me, but it's really reassuring to know that there is a case manager working with the tenants and every week going in and making sure things are going okay, helping them become a good tenant. That doesn't happen even if you have a property manager. Nobody's going into the rental all the time and helping the tenants be good tenants. And they've been great about that, and sometimes it's even more often than once a week that people get visited. And I get to feel good because somebody who needs housing badly is getting housed, but also reassured that things are being looked after. And if the neighbors have a problem, I refer them to Arcata House, and they work with the neighbors and figure out what's going on and help the tenants handle that situation. And that's just way more than I've ever heard of a property manager doing, or that I would want to do myself if I were which is probably what would end up happening if I had to do the renting myself. Plus a check shows up in my mailbox every month at the beginning of the month. I don't even have to think about it. If something needs fixing, I get told. A lot of times Arcata House takes care of it, and sometimes I do, but I get told right away. I don't have to wait until a tenant moves out. And one time when the tenant moves out, we did a walkthrough and talked about what needed to be fixed, and Arcata House fixed it. I didn't have to do it. I love that. I don't know why more people don't do this if they've got a place to rent, because it's great. It's a load off my mind. And I know that Arcata House cares. They want their tenants to be good tenants.
So we are in unprecedented times right now. So what's coming up, what's happening now, and what's occurring and happening on the near future and on the far horizon for us?
Well, we have been so fortunate over this last year. Our governor has released millions and millions of dollars to support people who are homeless and to support programs like us, and we've been the beneficiary of a lot of that money, which has really helped us to provide some new programs like the emergency tent shelter, like Project Room Key, where we put people in hotels, and in Project Home Key, which allowed us to purchase our first affordable housing project, which is a 17-unit affordable housing project that it provides permanent supportive housing for people who are coming out of homelessness. So we are so very excited about that. Home Key 2 is coming up. We will be applying for that, and we hope that we'll get approved to purchase 58 more units of affordable housing. Housing is the #1 issue for us in this county, not just for people who are homeless, but certainly for people who are looking for a place, who can afford a place. It's very difficult to find housing.
It is very difficult. I have an associate who has spent 9 months, she had, well employed, she has funds, just 9 months trying to find housing. I can't imagine how much more difficult it would be if you're marginalized on your income or your situation.
Right, or have bad rental history. We're also very fortunate this year to be able to partner with the Yurok tribe and the Yurok Indian Housing Authority. They were our partners on this affordable housing project, the 17 units, and we have opened our first shelter on tribal lands working with people who are homeless. As you know, people living on reservations or on tribal lands are far more apt to be homeless than any other demographic. And so we're honored to be able to provide that service for them.
And if I remember correctly, some of the housing program on the tribal land, some of that came out of the trailers that were part of the pandemic program. And so from one program to the next, we've been able to transition and continue to provide additional services.
Absolutely. Yes, and thanks for bringing up the trailers, because as you know, they got lots of bad press, right? What's going to happen with the trailers? Why is it taking so long? Well, it took so long because nobody owned them yet, and we didn't have a place to put them that allowed us to connect to sewer and electricity and water. And now they're connected, and people are in them, and we are providing all kinds of supportive services to them.
And it's a wonderful, wonderful continuation of the story there. And yes, sometimes it's a process, and it does take time sometimes. The desire is out there to deal with these problems, and sometimes it's putting the cart before the horse, and we figure out as we go, and we figure out how to make it work.
Absolutely, and it does work, and it is working. I also do want to really give a shout out to some other important projects that are coming up. So the City of Arcata has provided us with a grant, and we're going to be able to provide more on-street outreach work, which is going to make such a difference. We are going to be able to go to people instead of having them come to us. We want to continue to do that work, and we want to be able to serve people, serve our community even better. So that's fabulous. And there's also a lot more federal money coming out to continue to provide shelter, beds, to continue to provide the kind of one-stop service that we do out of our annex at 501 9th Street, and to just continue to be available to our community.
Well, I think we're finally, or the world is, or the country is finally learning that we need to provide the services and not just put Band-Aids on the situation, not just treat the symptom, but work on the cause and get direction back towards curing the problem. And it's a problem that's going to be there, and it's a much bigger, it's a huge problem, but we got to start somewhere, and I'm pleased to see the direction and the tides turning back to that direction of help and assistance again.
Absolutely, yes, and I think we've, you know, as an agency, we've also been really involved in helping people not become homeless, like advocating to get money in to support people who can't pay the rent or do other things. So that's really important to me. But let me just say, Jean, none of this could happen without the direction of our board, who really is, you and the rest of our board has opened your heart to us, opened your heart to the community, and you've really allowed me to provide guidance to our staff in ways that are so supportive. We've opened new programs that we've never offered before because you and the board have allowed us to move in those directions. So from the bottom of my heart and from all of our staff, a big thank you to you and to the board for your direction and leadership through this last year.
And thank you, Darlene, because you were the director to come along at a time. You were the person who has come on and brought this organization to new heights and new levels at a time when we needed that. You're an inspiration, although you may seek guidance and direction from us. We are amazed, honored, touched, and impressed by the ability and direction and insight you have for this program. And not just you, I know it's the entire staff. So with that, we'd like to thank this amazing staff of Arcata House Partnership, who in this past year has, Lord knows, gone through so much trial and tribulation during these trying times. With that, I'd like to take a moment so we can listen to Tony Lucchese, one of our advisory committee members, Brad, who is one of our clients, and Cassie, who is a board member.
What I see as the mission of Arcata House is helping families make fundamental changes in their life that leads to a long-term change in their living situation, their household economy, and their children's futures. I know that I'm aware that since I was on the board, the mission of Arcata House seems to be ever expanding because they do such a good job and do it so efficiently that other services have come to them by default. But my experience is with the core mission of helping families transition to permanent housing, not just giving them a place to stay, but transition to permanent housing and to be self-supporting.
Arcata House had a complete program. I mean, when they took me around, the first thing they did is they signed me up and they gave me an apartment. They didn't just hand me some keys and said, there you go, you're on your own. No, they were there every day. They took me and got me a good doctor and a good therapist. And they were always at my house talking. If I needed to go somewhere, they were there for me, and it helped me change. That doesn't mean I was always nice to them. I learned that, I'm way different than I was back then. But for all the years, I built up relationships with people that worked for Arcata House. I'll never forget a lot of them, like Cassie and Stephanie and Miss Fox. I mean, it helped because they did everything to help you. They didn't do it for you. They showed you what you needed to do, and they would talk to you about it all the time if you needed the help. And thanks to that, I was able to change. I mean, HUD hands you the keys, then you go in there, and the guys like me would get high and destroy the apartment, and then we'd get kicked out and we'd be right back on the street. If it wasn't for Arcata House having a complete program where they're always there, they take you shopping when you need to go shopping and all that, and to doctor's appointments, and they're always there, even playing music. Todd was a great worker. He would come and play music, and we were having a party at the apartment complex that I lived at, and he showed up with his guitar to play music for everybody, which just made the whole party even better, And this is just the way Arcata House is. They make you become part of a bigger family.
I firmly believe that this organization has made a difference for so many people. I believe in the transparency and the goals of getting housing into our community, being able to work together as a community to make these changes to help our community members and serve Arcata House Partnership in the years to come. I think Arcata House Partnership is in like a unique place where people are drawn to the services and the work, and that we're a really unique organization that offers the training on the ground for people in a very specific way. The work at Arcata House Partnership is helping people from wherever they come from make the changes that they're wanting to make in their lives, believing in the power of change for people and helping them create that in their lives and make that sustainable. So at the most basic level, having a conversation with somebody, seeing what their goals are, whether it's how to get food later that day or where to stay that night, how to get their kids in school, where can they park their house or car safely, getting into a house, a forever home, to be reunited with their kids. It looks very different for different people, but helping people achieve their goals is the work.
Wow, that was just amazing and inspiring. But what do we in Arcata House Partnership still need to do? What still needs to be done out there?
There is still so much work to do, Jean. What we are seeing every day is more and more people are coming to us with needs. We have opened a senior shelter because we're getting a tremendous amount of calls from people over 70 who are becoming homeless for the first time. That's not okay. We are trying really hard to support people's needs, but we need affordable housing. As you know, Jean, our administrative office had a fire this year, so we are now currently a homeless service provider. Over the last 5 months, we've worked out of our cars and we've squished into each other's offices and really worked really hard to move through this. And it'll still be a few more months until our administrative office building is back up. So all of the good thoughts and wishes about getting that done would be helpful. We are very clear in our work that although the point in time count from 2019 said that there were a little over 1,400 people who were homeless, that allowed us to count them on that day, our staff have worked with thousands of people each year over the last couple of years, and the numbers keep growing. We are hearing more and more every day about people becoming homeless. Affordable housing means different things to different people. To me, affordable housing means a place where people can live and they're not paying more than 30 or 50% of their income. Because once people start paying 80% of their income, there's no money left for electricity or for medicine or for food. So I think that we need to advocate more to our governor, to our senators, and to HUD to make sure that more money comes in for housing. It's a public health issue, it's an environmental issue, it's a safety issue, it's all of those things. And so I think the biggest thing that we are going to be able to do over the next year or two is to increase the amount of advocacy, the amount of education that we do to our community partners, and to make sure that we continue to provide shelter beds, that we can continue to provide rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing, and that we continue to reach out and meet people on the streets and let them know that people care.
Yes, and we do care, and it's been an amazing the first 30 years, and it's going to be exciting and amazing to over the next 30, 40, 50 years as this program continues to grow and help more people and deal with these issues. So happy anniversary, 30th anniversary.
Happy anniversary,
Thank you for
Jean.
joining us tonight, Darlene.
My pleasure. Thank you, community, for all of your support and all that you do to allow us and to help us serve the community even more. We really appreciate your support. We appreciate your guidance. We appreciate all that you do to make our community better.
Thank you to all of you who have joined us tonight and have been supporting us for the past 30 years. If you'd like to know more about supporting Arcata House or be a part of our efforts, please visit arcatahouse.org or visit us at Facebook to learn more. Again, thank you and good night.
Come on everybody, join me by the fire. Come and warm your bones. I got a big old pot, so bring what you got. We're gonna make soup from a stone. Debbie's got some ramen and a big can of beans. Add some salt and pepper, we'll be eating like queens. Stone soup, soup from a stone, soup from a stone. Stir it all together and serve it up hot. If we each bring a little, we'll all have a lot. Stone soup, soup from a stone, soup from a stone. Come on everybody, make yourself at home. Soup from a stone. Stir it all together and serve it up hot. If we each bring a little, we'll all have a lot. Stone soup, soup from a stone, soup from a stone. Come on everybody, make yourself at home.